Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a very, very special guest on named Brian Hess. And Brian has actually been on the show before. We've done a couple of other live streams, and I was talking to him the other day about his unbelievable success and some of the contributing factors to his success in the last 4 or 5 years, which has been, I'm telling you, it's like unbelievable. It's unicorn-ish. But listen, I want you to do me a favor and share this out, especially to people who own a business, because this guy knows his stuff and he didn't always know his stuff. And that's what's important. So I want you to share this out. Stay with us. We will be right back. And we're back. Let me bring Brian on. Brian, welcome back to the show, man.
What's happening, brother? Always good to be here and hang out with you.
It's so awesome to have you here, man. So, you know, you and I were, like I said, we were talking, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago about everything happening in your world and in your business, and mural paintings on your wall, and Pittsburgh Steelers sponsoring. And I'm like, dude, we got to get you back on the show to talk about this, because I can honestly say I knew Brian back when, before this massive, massive success you've experienced. So tell everybody where you're from, where you were born and raised. Start there. Just give them a quick recap of who you are.
Yeah, so I born and raised in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, which is a small little city in southwestern Pennsylvania. That's probably about 20 minutes from Morgantown, West Virginia, so West Virginia University. Yeah. Moved to Pittsburgh, soon after high school. Spent some time in South Florida. Raised by a steel worker and a mom that stayed at home. So kind of the traditional American family. That's definitely where I got my blue collar roots from. I kind of grew up around the business that I'm a part of now. And, it's kind of where my heart was, and so when I spent a lot of time in corporate America in my early adult life, and, looking back on it, never really felt at home there, as I got the opportunity to move into private business, specifically in the construction industry, it just felt like home, man. I love the people that I got to talk to every day. I love the feeling of it, the realness of it. And, the rest is history, man. I got into this industry in 2011 and, worked for some people over the years, and then eventually decided that it was time for me to kind of take the jump and do this on my own. And that was in March of 2018. And the last, 5 years and change have been an incredible ride, man. Just an awesome experience of being able to build, what I always thought was possible, not just from a revenue and profit and financial standpoint, but from a culture standpoint, a place that people are excited to come to, a place that is not a traditional construction company. We have a lot of things going on inside of here that are, nothing like you would see in the construction industry typically. And so it's right. Been awesome, man. It's really a dream come true to be able to do this and do so with, all of our families, not just my family, but every family that's part of our organization here at the Pavement Group, kind of feeling that purpose and push behind what we're doing. Everything that we do, we try to make a bigger purpose out of, right? So, whether it's giving back or partnerships or whatever, it always has a giving connection to it. And that was, part of the vision that I had from the beginning.
when was it that you and I stood on your front porch the day you were moving in? I think was the
Yeah.
same day you were moving into your house. What do you remember? What day that? What wasn't that 2018?
It was July of 2018. Yeah. So the
That's
company was a
insane.
couple of months old. Yeah.
And the first year you did in the I don't know, not a million yet.
No, couple million in the first year. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay. Um, but okay, you've like 28, so 5 years. It's been just over 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, I don't know what you want to disclose or talk about, but you're like way over a million a year now.
Yeah.
And
I think the easy thing to say is that we're well into the 8 figures and well on our way to the 9 figures. And, that is, it's amazing to be able to sit here and look back on that journey, look back on, all the breakthroughs to go through, to go in alignment with this show. And, the lessons that you learn and the challenges that you have and the things that you don't know, the things that you don't know, the things that you don't know, right? There's a whole list of lessons that you learn, as they say, entrepreneurship is the greatest self-discovery process in the history of mankind. I mean, it will tell you things about yourself that you didn't know. Right. And, but it's worth it every minute of every day, man. I've never felt like I was working, since the day. There are days that it was really hard. It was really challenging. But I've never felt like it was working. It always felt natural. Just felt like it was part of what I was put here to do.
So when you look back, I mean, I know when you were in Florida, didn't you work for Verizon? Weren't you a salesperson or what was the role you played?
Yeah. So I was a business sales manager and then, an associate director of business sales. And so my career in corporate America was I pretty much sold cell phones, tablets, et cetera, technology to primarily construction companies, because the small to medium business space, the largest portion of that was in construction. And so when I got this opportunity in construction, it wasn't foreign to me because, my dad was a blue collar guy. And so that was familiar. And, then the other side is that I spent a few years prior to that meeting with construction company owners and listening to their problems and providing, at least on the technology side, the resources that enabled them to solve those problems. And so, when I got into this space, the first thing that I started doing was, working towards the technology solutions that were really missing in our industry. And that is ultimately what ended up separating our company from most of the competition.
So again, I want to, I want to point out that, I don't know what, I'm sure it was in the low to mid 6 figures when you were working in the cell phone space. 100 to 200 grand a year would be probably comparable for a position like that. And it's mind boggling to me, at least, that I've watched you, man. I've seen you. We've had over the last 5 years, I don't know how many conversations we've had about a variety of different business things and personal. And, but I've watched you go from the beginning to like, dude, you're now, I mean, it's official. You're a sponsor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, man. I mean, being a kid from Pittsburgh, and I remember I was at a Steelers game last year with Scott Simons and Joy Farley, two friends that came in, and Joy's brother was playing for the Raiders, and so we went to the Raiders Steelers game. And I remember sitting in the stands. Eli, who is our national director of sales, was with me, and I remember saying, like, someday our logo is going to be up on this scoreboard. Someday our logo is going to be in this stadium. And, just for everybody out there, it's like, if you set your mind to something and you create a strategy and you create a real plan and you can reverse engineer the activities that it takes to be able to get there, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy. It's not easy, but it is simple. If you just create a plan and you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to do the things that are necessary, if you're willing to lean in to the marketing and the uncomfortable nature of, back in the day, man, when I first met you, I was uncomfortable doing this stuff. Right. It was like,
Right.
I'm not a person that desires the limelight necessarily. I'm not afraid of it, but I'm not like, hey, I want to be out in front of everything. So it's like that balance of it. And I remember you being one of them, people telling me like, man, you really need to get out there, right? Like, really need to get your message out there. And it's the best advice I ever got, because I was just telling this story this morning in our team meeting. So, another interesting thing, like, just over a year ago, we had, a dozen people on our team meeting, right? And now we don't have enough chairs in our conference room. And then we've got a screen full across the country, of people. But, I was telling those guys, like, so late last year, I had saw a guy online that was doing custom sneakers. And so I'm a sneaker guy. And so I told Trey on our team, Trey played for the University of Pittsburgh for many years. I said, hey, this Vinny guy, he's going to respond to you before he responds to me, because you're an athlete. He paints athletes. That's what he's really into. And so why don't you DM him and see if we can, set up a lunch. And so we end up, going to lunch with Vinny, and we hit it off. And, in the middle of the lunch, Vinny says to me, like, man, I don't want to sound weird, but, I've been praying to meet people like you guys for the last few months. And like, man, this opportunity, it's just, God's speaking to me, telling me like, how can I work for you guys? And I'm like, what am I going to do with an artist? Right? Like, what am I going to do with a guy that paints, murals like this?
Yeah.
And so I took a couple of days and I said, like, I got it, man. Like, I know how this can work together. And that led to us sponsoring an art show, an art exhibit that Vinny had. So he had painted one of the top plays of the NFL week every week last season.
Yeah.
And we sponsored this show. It was at Stage AE. For those people who don't know Pittsburgh, it's right next to Heinz Field. I know it's not called that anymore, but I'll call it that forever. Right next to Heinz Field. And so we threw a big party. We gave all the proceeds of that party to Steel City Impact, which is a nonprofit that I'm on the board of. And that opened the doors, man, for the professional sports teams to put us on the map, to notice us. So we got prospected by the first Pittsburgh sports team soon after that event. So we signed the first NIL deal in high school sports history in the state of Pennsylvania. So Rodney Gallagher, who now plays for West Virginia University, starting as a freshman, we signed that deal. And then, we had this art exhibit. And so it put us on the map of sports. And that opened up all kinds of different things. And so now the first partnership has been announced already with the Steelers, and the second partnership soon to come in the coming weeks here. And so those things, in the business world, a lot of people may not understand that. Like, how do you do that? And frankly, when I first started thinking through it, I didn't necessarily understand it either. It was like, I thought like, you're investing into having your name on the scoreboard.
Right.
And that's only a very small piece of what happens when you become a partner of one of those organizations. And it's especially if you're willing to do those partnerships the right way. And so the partnership with Rodney Gallagher, the NIL deal, it was all around giving back. The partnership with the exhibit, the art show that we did, it was all centered around giving back. Yeah. The deal that we're doing with the Steelers is all around giving back. So we're donating $500 for every field goal and $100 for every extra point to the Best of the Batch Foundation, which is Charlie Batch's youth program. Wow. Up in Homestead, in Munhall Homestead here in Pittsburgh. And then the next one that we're doing is also in the form of giving back. It's in teaching the youth in hockey some skills in business that I don't want to say too much about until it gets released. But I think that those things, man, are the outside the box thinking things of business that really allow you to put jet fuel in the tank, and really give you a bigger purpose in business than you would otherwise be able to manufacture. And I think it's important, like the part of business that's most simple is actually to give it purpose. If you do it with purpose, you'll never run out of steam. And if you don't do it with purpose, it's going to feel like you're running uphill every single day.
You and I have had many conversations about, looking at other people's businesses and maybe work ethics or whatever. We've had, we're good friends, and and we've had very open conversations. And, in your opinion, because there's not one single person in business watching right now or listening to this who could honestly say, boy, I sure wouldn't want to be headed to 9 figures. Right. Like, and you're getting ready. You're on the verge of getting there. And I think that I want to hear from you. What do you think? Break it down in the simplest form. What do you think is stopping people from achieving greater things in their companies, in their businesses, in their lives too?
I think number one, man, is that it's the things that people tell us. It's the fear that's instilled in us, when we get into business. And I think that a lot of times it's those people closest to us. My dad, when I was opening this business, told me not to do it, right? Because he was most concerned about his grandchildren being able to eat, right? It wasn't, it was like, well, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? And I said, well, Dad, I guess we'll have that conversation at a different house because they'll probably take this one, right? And, but I think that, two things. Number one, it's the fear that is instilled in us. But number two, it's that I think people really lack the foundation in their businesses, like the systems, the processes, the functional steps of business. Like, and that comes from, how do you learn how to do that stuff? Well, that comes from mentorship, right? It comes from being willing to invest the money to learn. So that you don't have those fears, right? You're okay leaning into what most people would view as extremely uncomfortable. And, so for us, it's not always easy, man. Every time you go up 10 or $20 million in revenue, I describe it to the team like this. It's like, we're building a whole brand new company. Like, we're doing in an increase now, we're doing what it took us several years to do in the beginning. And so, of course, things are going to break. And I think that, people also have to get okay with failure or setbacks, right? Where it is part of the process of business is failure. And I think we're taught that failure is bad, and failure is a sign of progress. Difficulty is a sign of progress. How our perspective when it comes to failure, our perspective in not just how we take it, but how we treat that with our people as well. Like the people that are on our teams, like if somebody fails at something here, I'm like, good. Like if we're making bad decisions, that's a whole different topic. But if we're overwhelmed, if something's breaking, if, momentary failures as a result of honestly success, we should celebrate those because it's an opportunity for us to learn. It's an opportunity for us to regrow a process, to start from scratch and re-engineer what it looks like now. And, when you get to a bigger size, there are more tweaks than complete re-engineering. But like the process is just look at, the beginning of a company to, where we're at now. I had a group of 8-year-olds that came through and toured the office, and they did some Q&A. And one of the 8-year-olds from the school that our kids go to. And he said, could you explain your sales process to me? And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool for an 8-year-old,
An
right?
8-year-old.
Yeah. But my answer to him was, let me go back to the beginning and explain what it's like to start a business. And then let me explain to you what it's like when you build a business, you're reinvesting. Because in the beginning, man, it was me, a notepad, a computer, and a list to call from. And every phone call was like, who is this? What company are you? What do you guys do? Right. There was no brand recognition, and there was no, every conversation had to be explained extensively. Yeah. And it's one-to-one, right? It's like, I'm just prospecting and I'm banging this list, or I'm emailing, or I'm, posting on social media and hoping for a hit. Right.
Yeah.
And then it goes from, one-to-one to one-to-many. You start to market, right? You start to invest in marketing. And then it goes from one-to-many to one-to-many more, and one-to-many more, and one to millions. And so, when you're example, a partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, every time that you're put out there, there's 17.1 million Steeler fans nationwide.
Right.
And so it's 1 to 17 million that are going to want to support your company. And so those strategies of how you market and how you build and how you evolve your sales process, and how, you build a business development team in addition to a sales team, so that you don't have the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys of you sell stuff and now you have to perform it. You and I have had those conversations many times. Like, well, the problem is you got to deliver the stuff, right? And then when you deliver the stuff, now you can't sell anything. And so when you solve that problem, now you got a whole nother level that you can perform at, because, you're solving those problems. And that is, in my opinion, man, it's the reason why people get stuck in business, is that they're so busy on the hamster wheel that they're not looking at the real problems or the real roadblocks of business. And it takes a lot of capital to reinvest in order to build a business at the level that you're looking to build it at. And it's not a scary thing. It's literally just as easy to do the same thing 100 times as it is doing it once, if there's a process. If you don't have a process, well, then, it's a real challenge, right? And it turns into a real shit show if you don't have the right processes, the right people, the right leadership, right? Everything rises and falls on leadership. I see that in business, not enough people leaning into their own ability to lead. Once you understand what real leadership is and how it impacts people, you can multiply your company just from that one thing, because you have the ability to inspire, motivate, level up many people, so you can personally impact whatever the number is, 6, 8, 10 people on a pretty positive level.
Right.
Well, if those people are doing the same thing times 10, times 10, times 10, it doesn't get too far down the road until there's a whole lot of people being impacted. But it comes down with, you have to have a vision big enough to be able to see the opportunity to do that. And then you have to work at the processes that it takes. Everything has a process, man. How I reconnect with our team, how I reconnect with our customers, how I schedule date nights with my wife. It all has a process, because if it doesn't, you're going to end up letting people down. And so if you don't have a process in place, you're not disciplined. You don't. And by the way, it's never perfect either. So for those people out there that think like somehow I've, caught this fairy dust that makes my schedule perfect, it doesn't happen like that.
No,
it is a struggle all the time to try and keep these relationships healthy, to try and keep your customers happy, but you got to work really hard at it, man. And if you do that over a long period of time, like 5 years, you get to reap the fruits of that labor.
How do you, I don't even know how many text messages and emails a day now. I mean, and then Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger and all the stuff, right? And there's just, I'm obsessed with making sure that I respond to everybody. I'm obsessed with it, like in a bad way, because, and I say in a bad way, because it takes away time and you end up in a conversation. You really don't have time to be in that conversation, but you're trying to be the nice guy. And how do you decide? Because I have texted you in the past and we're really good friends. And I've texted you in the past and have not heard back from you. Like sometimes for days, right?
Yep.
And that's not a judgment. And I don't think it means that you hate me. I think it's just, dude, I'm busier than hell and I don't have time to respond to this right now, but eventually I will. How do you decide what bucket to put those in? Is there any kind of a process, or is it just kind of like whatever?
Oh yeah. I think it's, it's the old fashioned, I think this is a Stephen Covey thing. You remember the old Covey planners, Franklin Covey planners, or wherever it came, but it's like, is it urgent and important, or is it not urgent and unimportant? It's because, if you were texting me something about business that was urgent, you'd get an immediate response.
Yeah.
And dude, it's a hard thing to come to terms with. Like, I still have a lot of guilt today, like, to this day, of like, there's people that literally, man, like they'll text me again, right? Like that I haven't gotten back to, but it's part of, you have to forgive yourself for that stuff. Right. Yeah. And I have a good buddy that uses a quote that I love, man, that I say to people all the time, because it happens to me. I'm friends with a lot of busy people too, right? Where I'm texting them about something and they don't get back to me. And of course, when you finally connect, the apology comes. And I always say this to them: busy people understand busy people.
Right. It's true.
And that's just how it is. And, there are things that don't go right in your life. Like there are friendships and relationships that there's distance created in at times. And that is one of the sacrifices of success. It really is. And, if people know you well, they're going to give you the grace that you deserve, and realize that, like, it's not intentional. You're not trying to not get back to people, but there are things, people ask me, lots of questions, man. Lots of people have access to my phone number or DMs or, whatever it is. And I'm at a point now in my life where I can't give all of those things the same priority. Right. And I always joke and tell people, like, I remember a time in my life where I thought I was busy, like where I thought I had a lot going on. And I was certain about that I was really busy, and then you figure out what, busy really looks like. And it's not perfect, man. And I think that's important for people to know, is that you don't have to take, the responsibility for every question that everybody has for you. Certainly you don't want to treat people poorly. That's not in any way acceptable. But I think people honestly know, man, like if they're asking you a question, again, if it's business related, Ken, you're going to respond to them, right? If it's an opportunity or a relationship or somebody who's done a lot for you, or, whatever, you're going to try. Like those things are all part of the priority list. Yeah. But I think honestly, people know too, that like, they're asking you a question. You and I always joke about, like, can I have 15 minutes to pick your brain? And like eventually the answer becomes no. And it's not that you don't want to give people the 15 minutes. It's that it truly doesn't fit into the purpose that you have been given on this earth to make a huge impact. And, that's all judgment, man. It's all a judgment call on your part to be able to sift through all the things that are coming at you.
Well, look, and it's deeper than that. And you know this because we've talked about it. How much money in the last 4 years have you invested in the wisdom that you have today?
Oh man, the first number that comes to mind is probably $500,000, but it might be closer to $1 million.
Right. So you've invested $500,000 to $1 million in gaining this wisdom. And I want to call you up and pick your brain for free. Like what? Like I spent money to get this. I spent time. I went through mistakes and painful mistakes and errors and judgment, and now you want this advice for free. And that's I'm just going to be honest with everybody watching or listening. That's the conversation you and I have had. It's like, dude, there comes a point where no, you don't get this for free. It costs me way too much to get this to give to you. And what I do know about you is you could take anybody's business. I don't care what it is, any business, and you could sit down and you could dissect it and show them where their weak spots are and show them how to take it to another level. Much like I do with a lot of people, you are really, really calculated at it. You're really, really good at it. And I think that part of the message, and I watch your videos, I listen to your message all the time, and part of your message is you've got to be willing to invest in yourself and not expect stuff for free.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's a reason why people automatically go from high school off to college so often, which I have my personal opinions about a lot of that, right? It's like, but think about this. I mean, part of the reason why we pay property taxes in the United States, we pay taxes to our local school districts. So like you're paying for education from the time you're born until the time you die. And, you can't get away from that in the United States. And so I think that people, think that they can get it for free. And frankly, there's a lot of resources out there that are free. If you want to take the time to track down, I don't know how many episodes of Breakthrough Walls there have been, but shoot, man, like send people over to YouTube and have them watch all the episodes. Like that's time you've invested in order to learn the things that and connections that you've established as a result of that. Connections that, by the way, have been transferred to me and hundreds of other people as a result of it. But it's an investment in time, in money, in, losses in some senses, right? Like, the things that you've learned through business to lose. The reason, like when you use the word calculated, the first thing I thought is you better be when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar contracts every day, right? Like, the reading of those contracts, the understanding of business, the, multiple 6-figure, 7-figure investments into things that can move your business forward or not.
Right.
All of those things better be calculated, right? They better be thought out, or else you will go out of business quickly, just like so many other businesses that are out there. And, I think, from our standpoint, we've seen the value, we've seen the ROI and those investments into mentorship, into programs, into trying things and seeing if they work, whether it's advertising, marketing, branding, otherwise. And so those things, they do cost money. And I believe that, people don't see that they're creating their own lid by not being willing to make that investment, because you will not, I don't care who you are, you will not pay attention at the same level to the information if you're not making an investment to do it. It's not about like, for me, giving people advice or, having top contractor school and having, hundreds of contractors involved on that side of things. It's not about the money. If you don't make money doing it, you're going to be less interested. That's how that works too, right? Like from a mentorship standpoint. So those two things go together. You got to be willing to invest. You got to be willing to accept as a mentor, or else you won't. That combination breaks down. And I think people have a difference of opinion on that, and they don't realize that they're literally putting a lid on their own progress as a result of that, because they can't make the progress that they want to make as fast as they want to make it. Because when you experience pain, I am not a person that says you should spend the last $1,000 you have on a program. I'm not. However, if you don't experience some pain by investing into these things,
right,
you will not learn at the same level.
That's right.
That's how it goes.
So I'll just be the devil's advocate here and say I am the person that says you should spend your last $1,000, because if you get into the right program, it won't be your last $1,000.
I agree with you there. But you better be damn sure it's the right one. And I've seen too many of the wrong ones.
I know, dude. I know. But look, the bottom line is, let's say you're a 40-year-old man and you're like, this is my last $1,000. Dude, you made it 40 years. It's not your last $1,000, right? You're going to figure it out. I don't know how. Maybe it's the wrong program, and that's the lesson you need to learn, but you'll find another $1,000.
You will.
Right? Because we've all been, you and I had I won't bring up their name, but it's a mutual friend that, some craziness was going on, and we both kind of disconnected from that situation. But, I mean, it takes pain, right? It takes the pain to get there, to figure out, okay, that hurt and I'm not doing that anymore. And the next time I make a decision around whatever that is, it's going to be different. I'm going to make it in a different way. I'm going to investigate a little more or whatever. Right.
Those are all amazing business lessons too. Right. And you are correct. Money is way overvalued.
Yes.
In the world of business. And that might sound crazy. You might need, if you need some context on that, please shoot me a DM and I'll give you some context. But it's like, right. My partner in the payment group and I, kind of joke all the time. This was earlier on in business than it is now, but I always say, what's expensive? Expensive to me is when the bank account hits zero. If we still got some money to fight with tomorrow, I don't think it's expensive. And so in context, it's like, if I can make an investment into something and that's going to rocket my business in the right direction, I just have to be able to outrun the expense of whatever that investment is in order to be able to make the money back. Right. And that's going back to when you said, why do you think so many people have a lid on their business? I think fear and being too conservative. Right. There's a huge spectrum in that world of like how far you can go, how crazy people get on what they take risks on, all of those things. And for people who aren't entrepreneurs, if they knew the risks that entrepreneurs take in order to become successful, they probably wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't believe some of the ups and downs that happen in business that put you into uncomfortable positions that you have to work your way out of. Like, it just doesn't happen without those risks. And I think a lot of people are so risk averse that they don't give themselves the opportunity to truly reach their potential. And that's a shame, man, because, you're putting in the same amount of work. If you can just get, again, the right guidance, the right advice, the right mentorship that can help you. I've had many people over these 5 years be able to paint a picture that was a little different for me. And I intentionally seek out people that have a different perspective than I do, so that I'm not just, getting yes to death inside of my own organization. I'm trying to get people who have been there, done that. The best advice has come from people who have been bankrupt, who have been in, to the depths of the worst scenario and made it back to success. Like, they know what risk is about, man. And that is, it's important to know as an entrepreneur, what is the right amount of risk? And you can learn a lot from the people who have done it and been wrong. And you can learn a lot from the people who have done it and been really right.
I know that you have paid for some super high level coaching, one-on-one coaching, and to the tune of a lot of money. But in hindsight, was it? No,
Best investments I've ever made, man.
Right. And I think that people, I personally have been here. I know you have, because we've talked about it, where you're like, man, I have this, I don't know, I'll throw out a $10,000 in the account and really am struggling with revenue coming in or whatever. And it's like, I don't know that I can risk spending half of this on some, or whatever. I'm just throwing out, what if scenarios, but like that are not entrepreneurs have no idea what it's like to be sitting with 10 people on your payroll or 100 people or whatever and not be able to pay them. Not like I don't know how we're making payroll next week, but we got to figure this stuff out now. Like we got to figure it out. And that keeps you up at night. It's the little things like that keep you up at night.
Just a simple example, in our business. I mean, you go through the wintertime and you don't make any, like, you're not doing
right.
You're doing a fraction of the work that you would do all year. And so that becomes not a profitability issue. That is fine because we plan for that stuff. But there's some scenarios where cash becomes the issue. It's not the profitability of the company. And that sounds crazy to people too. The company can be profitable on paper, but because of, external circumstances, you got to go do things and you got to pay for things and you got to move that stuff around, to cover all of that stuff. However, you will figure it out. If you want my advice, it's test your own resourcefulness. When you get your back against the wall, you'll figure out how smart you are. You'll figure out how resourceful you are. You'll figure out how big or how strong or how weak your network is of people that can help you overturn those rocks, right? They get you to the secrets that you need to know about that scenario. And what I would tell you is, man, like, you're going to figure it out 9 out of 10 times. You're going to find a way to figure it out if you are determined enough. Somebody just put it in the comments here. If you're determined enough to make it, you're going to make it, man. And I really think that people, allow the what ifs to manage their life far too often. And that doesn't work, man. It doesn't, it's not going to get you to the promised land the way that you think it will. Playing small, playing conservative, not taking risks. You're stealing from your own potential. You're stealing from, the real progress that God intended you to make. Never forget that, man. If you can follow that path, ask God for the guidance to get you there. And, rely on the gifts that you've been given. Hi, Mom.
There's Mom. Hey, Mom.
But, that's what it takes, man. Far too often, the world tells us to play small, man. They want to keep us in a position that is manageable, and it's far too often that we listen to it. And, when I stopped listening to that stuff, my mom to this day says, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should know that by now. Shit, you've been dealing with me for 44 years, right? Like, I've been this way since I could talk, right?" So, like, it's, of course, I'm a little different than most people. And that's what it takes, and I've learned that is, really a point of validation at this point. It's like, if people think I'm crazy, then I'm probably onto something.
Yep. I totally agree with that. In fact, my buddy that put determination in, that's Nick. I told you about Nick. He has the artificial turf company.
Got it.
That's franchising. Remember, I told you the other day about him.
Nick, you and I need to chat, brother.
Dude, he is like a nut job when it comes to stuff. I'm like, dude, but I think that all of us that are entrepreneurs there is a massive level of risk involved in day-to-day action. I mean, there just is. Like,
did you get up and get your car and drive to work? It's risk.
Yeah. Well, imagine the Wright brothers. Like, they're like, we would build that airplane, but my gosh, we could get hurt.
Dude, imagine the guys like, I just did 13 miles around the city of Pittsburgh the other day, right? And we were, I agree, Mom. It's worked pretty well so far. But, we walked past the University of Pittsburgh, the Cathedral of Learning. And, like, dude, that thing was built in, like, the early 1900s or something like that. And you look up at that building and you think to yourself, like, dude, how? How did they know? Like the amount of resources that they had, the amount of knowledge that they had, how they accessed that knowledge. How did these guys build the Empire State Building, the Cathedral of Learning?
Yeah.
Go on and
They
on.
watch some YouTube videos.
Right. No doubt, man. No doubt. Actually, we did eat Primanti sandwich at the end of our 13 miles, Bruce, which kind of, defeats the purpose of the 13 miles, but it was damn good,
Dude, I am coming to Pittsburgh. Well, you invited me to come to a game. I'm coming up to a game, and we're gonna get Primanti. It's been a minute. It's been a minute for me.
Amen, dude. Amen.
So talk about, I know that, you and I both have online courses and communities, and you have a pretty amazing thing that you've built with the contractor school. Talk about that for a minute, and first, what was the genesis of that? What made you decide to do that? And then, how's it going with it's top contractor school, TCS? So talk about that a little bit, Brian.
Yeah. So in the beginning of the pavement group, I really, I wanted to build a nationwide asphalt and concrete company, and a national paving company model utilizes subcontractors. So we have a network, we call it, let's see, go the other way, the One Team back there. And our One Team contractors, they require, education as well. Like, so a better contractor that performs work for our customers is better for us. And so in the beginning of building this company, in order to be different, we wanted to be able to serve those contractors that were part of our network with the education and the information that they needed in order to take their own businesses to the next level. And when I got into the construction industry in the first place, the biggest difference that I saw from corporate America to what we had access to here was that there wasn't a lot of information available to these guys of how to run a business, of how to build a sales team, of how to market, how to brand, how to do media, how to do all these things that really have created success for us. Most people didn't have access to that. And so I wanted to create a company in addition to the payment group that helped people be able to take that to the next level. And so that's how Top Contractor School was born. And so we started by just teaching a sales mentorship program and an operations mentorship program. And so it helped the guys and girls that were in sales and operations be able to recruit better and sell better and run meetings with a purpose and know how those were supposed to go in order to sell large portfolios of properties, things like that. Right. And so through those programs, people, raised their hands and said, man, we'd like to continue doing this. The group that did that first sales mentorship program stayed in an Instagram chat for almost a year afterwards. And so they brought up, hey, what if we had a group? And so we started Top Contractor School Elite. And that was, every week we would meet on the phone and we would teach different topics and have Q&A. And we built resources like job descriptions and HR documents and sales trackers and job trackers and, all the resources. So we ran that group for about a year. And then the leaders, the owners and the leaders in that group said, man, it'd be really cool if we had a group where we could, kind of talk without, employees, like where it was more like how to run a company and then still do this other stuff. And we'd like to get together. We'd like to get together a couple times a year. And so that put us into the Top Contractor School Inner Circle. That group is still running today. We've got some of the most amazing contractors across the country, luxury home builders, steel guys, paving guys, excavating guys, roofing guys, drywall guys, you name it. They're in that group. And so now we've had that group for several years, and we've had, I think, 5 or 6 retreats at this point. So we've had people like John Maxwell at our retreats. We've got one coming up in January where Ed Milet will be in a room with, 100 of us or so, and really just our mission of TCS is to change the construction industry. It's to take those folks that are, the pinnacle of the construction industry. This country's been built on the backs of those people that work in construction. And for us not to give the information necessary for those tradesmen, those expert tradesmen, to be able to run their businesses easier and get them home to their families and their dinner tables sooner with less concerns than they would without it, would be a disservice on our part. And so our mission as an organization is to recruit the best of the best contractors, be able to bring in those that are struggling a little bit, mold those all together, and create the most powerful community that the construction industry has ever seen. And we are well on our way, man. The people that we have, the stories that we have of people that, we're having a tough time in business, that have, just reinvented their entire business. We've had companies go from 250,000 to 8 million, from 3 million to 20 million, it's crazy, the stories that come out of that. But the most powerful part of that whole thing, Ken, is, I always thought in the beginning that it was about the education, and I believe that's a foundational piece of it. But it is really the power of community that makes the biggest difference. It's intertwining people that want to help each other, that have a bigger purpose, that have, like values, right? I always say like-minded and like-hearted people, you put them together, man, they'll change the world. And that is what we have.
Sounds like you need the top turf guy in the country in your group. Nick.
Amen, dude. What's he waiting for?
Why you guys? I need to connect you guys. Nick's one of my best friends, man. He lives right here in the same town I'm in North Texas. So he's amazing. He's an amazing human being. He just said yes, so we'll connect. I'll get you guys connected. But dude, honestly, and I met your mom and dad. I had the honor of meeting your mom and dad. They're super wonderful people. You and your family are just, you're just good people, man. The one thing that I know about you is, and I've seen it, I've watched you. I've seen in my 55 years on this planet, a lot of people go from zero to hero, and then they get really arrogant and cocky and just turn into a dumbass. I don't know. And that's not you, dude. Here you are, approaching $100 million a year in business, and you're just as humble as you were when I was standing on your front porch with you 5 years ago, like it's unbelievable, man. You're staying grounded. What do you think is keeping you as grounded as you are?
I don't take any of this as mine. I understand that it could all be gone tomorrow. And so who I am as a person, if I were to go broke tomorrow, who I am as a human being, who I am as a husband, as a father, as a son, as a friend, is more important to me than the balance that's in my bank account. And, that, to me, I think that, it's God-given, and it could easily be gone in an instant. It can happen to anybody. And I never forget that, man. I never forget the perspective that's required to be a winner, because frankly, man, I know a lot more people that used to be successful than I do that maintain success. And I think that if you're not grateful every day for the opportunity, for the connections, for the blessings, for the, even the hard times, that you will lose your way, because it's easy, man. People tell you all the time how great you are. Right. And if you start to believe that, you are on your way to losing it. And, cause I think, we're all the same, man. We're all human beings. We're all equal. We all have the same opportunities. We all wake up and do the same things. And there are a lot of people, man, in this world that would love to have the opportunities that we have, right? That, don't have the same ability to go and get after it. And so for me, the reason that we give back is because we want to give to those people that, maybe don't have that same opportunity, in a moment, right? We're all equal as human beings, but not everybody in every moment in their life has the same chances, right? And so for us, it's important to reach back and, give a hand up to people that need it. And I think that, when we do that for enough years, because now we're in a position to really start to make a difference, financially, to invest into those people that need that extra push, and to be there, not just with the money, but the resources to be able to get them to the level that God intended them to have. And that's our purpose, man. It's to, have it be bigger than ourselves. It's not about what we can do as a company if we don't make a difference in the process.
Dude, I mean, look what my wife is watching, by the way. Look what she just said. She's 1000% correct. And
don't let him leave you at home for that game, Joe.
Well, for the Steelers game?
Yes.
She was born in Cleveland. I don't know how excited she would be about a Steelers game.
They play Cleveland in week 2.
Her mom.
I'm happy to invite Jill to a loss.
Her mom's from Pittsburgh, so there's this this thing. But dude, I think, and I've asked you a lot of these same questions in the past on here, and I keep seeing you reach bigger, higher, better levels. I mean, I said something to you the other day about $1 billion, and I believe your response was, that's probably not too far off. So
yeah,
Jill said,
if all goes well, it's in the next decade.
Right. But I mean, that's the thing is people do get, and I'm guilty of this. I'm sure you are. You get complacent, things start getting stagnant, and you're like, wait a minute, I've got to set a bigger, higher, I've got to reach for a higher level and keep going. And that's just what you do, man. It's unbelievable. And it's not just like, hey, I want to get to $1 billion. It's, I'm going to get to $1 billion by helping a whole bunch of other people get to hundreds of millions of dollars. Right.
That's how it works, man.
Our
buddy Zig Ziglar, man.
That's it.
Said it best. You help enough people get what they want, you never have to worry about what it is that you want.
Amen, man.
And that's the right order, man. We are, it's biblical, man. We're put here to be servant leaders. And when we get that right, the world pays us back.
So tell me how what's the website people can go learn more about you, your top contractor school, get in touch with you. Give me a good website.
Yeah, so realbrianhess.com is a website that you can go to and kind of get redirected to everything. But the pavementgroup.com is a website we're really proud of too. And you guys, you'll enjoy the things that are on there. It's, there's a lot more to this company than just being a asphalt, paving, and concrete company. We're about a day or two away from opening Studio One, which is right across on this same floor as I'm on. We've got 12,000 square feet here, and we've got a state-of-the-art audio video studio. That's the broadcast desk just got delivered on Friday, and so there's guys putting that stuff together over there right now. And more to come on that, man. We've got a lot going on in sports and media and all that stuff that you guys will see in the future. But follow me on Instagram or Facebook. My YouTube channel is blowing up now, man. It's we just started to put out probably 3-4 videos a week on there. So that's a good place to connect. And that's just Brian Hess on YouTube. So, but I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the time, and thanks to everybody that watched and listened. And, if I could give everybody one piece of advice, man, it's just like, focus on doing that one thing that makes a difference in somebody else's life every day. And you'll be amazed at the difference that it makes in yours. And when you do that every day for a long period of time, it becomes undeniable what the results become for you. And, I think that far too often we claim to be too busy. We claim to be too involved in things, or we don't have enough time, all the typical excuses that we tell ourselves. And I do it too. I'm not perfect at it, but when you win more days than you lose and you give more days than you take, you're going to find out that anything is possible. You get the right people around you, you get the right mission centered on everything. And the next thing you know, you're in rooms and places and doing things that you at one point in your life literally thought were just dreams.
I got to say this, because you and I experienced the same thing. For example, you and I can both call the #1 best-selling author in the world of all time, Mark Victor Hansen, with Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he'll take our call. And that is just mind-boggling. I remember the first time I talked to Mark. I remember the first time you talked to Mark. Matter of fact, I got a phone call from you after the first time you talked to Mark.
Funny story, man. He was one of the guys that texted me last week that I didn't respond to. It took me a couple of days, but that's reality, right? It just is. But yeah, you're right, man. The blessings are unreal, man. And listen, for the people listening, this guy here, this guy over here has introduced me to some incredible people, man. And that, but that is, it takes trust. It takes, being willing to give back and forth, whenever. I mean, that's what friendship is. It's not a one-way street. It's not asking for things for free. It's not, it's supporting those people that support you. It's giving back to those people that give to you. And when you do that, again, it doesn't happen overnight, man. You can't grow the crops from a single seed. It's got to be a whole field full of seeds that you sow. And once you do that, reaping the harvest is an undeniable fact. It's just how it works.
Unbelievable. Freaking amazing. I knew it would be. Everybody go to, is it just Real Brian Hess?
RealBrianHess.com. And that'll direct you to everywhere. Yep.
Yeah. Go check out everything. Follow this guy everywhere. Get involved in his programs and change your life, because it will change your life. It'll change it for the way, way, way better. I promise you. So go follow Brian. Brian, thank you, man. I really appreciate you, man. I really do. Hang tight with me though. Don't leave me.
You got it. Grateful for your friendship, man. Grateful that you trust me with your audience here, and just grateful for everything we've been able to do together, and plenty more in the future.
Lots more. Looking forward to it. All right, you guys have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow. Make sure you go to realbrianhess.com. Follow this guy everywhere. You will not regret it. We'll see you later. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, guys.